Alright guys, welcome to another tutorial. This is going to be part 3 of that cheeky lava series that I've been doing. We made lava in the first one, moving platforms in the second one. They can move up and down and left and right and whatever. Today what we're going to do is we're going to create some lava bubbles that spawn out of the lava, they shoot through the air and they'll explode when they hit something. So right click in the content browser, go new blueprint class, type actor. We're going to need 2 blueprints. The first one is going to be called lava bubble spawner, and the second blueprint is going to be called, also of type actor, lava bubble. Okay, crack open the lava bubble. We'll do that first. Is this recording? Did I click record? Yeah, I did. Jesus, I'm getting tired. Okay. The first thing that we'll do is we'll add a static mesh to represent the bubble, and we'll just call that sphere. And if you go over to static mesh, we might make that material sphere, just like that. They can be spherical bubbles, that's fine. And for the scale, we'll type in 0.3 or maybe 0.4. 0.4. Compile and save. Let's just check that that's a reasonable size. So we'll drag you into the world. Yeah, if those guys are flying around, that looks relatively like a lava bubble. The material, we'll just use lava M, which we made in part 1, I think. It's just an emissive material thing. I just can't be bothered making another one, and that should be fine. Go add component. We'll say particle system. And we'll parent that, child that, whatever you want to, attach that to the sphere, just like that. And that particle system is going to be of type fire, just like that. So it'll flame through the air when it flies around. Now the sphere, click on your sphere up here and go simulate physics. So it'll bounce around and fall and stuff. And then on collision, say simulation generates hit events as well. Compile and save. Go into the event graph, delete all of this nonsense. Compile and save again. Let me just check that this actually works. So if we drag that up and hit play, alright, falls through, fire follows it, bounces, beautiful. So now, on sphere, right click and say add event for sphere, collision, add on component hit. Now this event is going to fire whenever that sphere collides with something. So we'll use this to trigger an explosion. So what we might do is we might have another event and say custom event and call this detonate. And the reason that we want to have this down here is because perhaps these lava bubbles might also detonate from other events. So say they get overlapped by the explosion of another lava bubble, that can just call this detonate event here, and we won't need to copy and paste all the code from this one. So I'll show you what I mean. Detonate can be do once, because we only want it to detonate once, obviously. And we're going to say spawn emitter. Actually, no, we're not going to do that. Go compile and save. Inside of here, we're going to say new blueprint class, and we're going to say type actor, and this is going to be lava bubble explosion. I didn't spell that right, but that's okay. I can't be bothered. Now, in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to add a particle system, and that particle system is going to be an explosion, like that. And we're also going to add a sphere collision. Oops. A sphere collision like that. And does that look like a reasonable collision for the explosion? Alright, maybe something like that. So that's set to 60 over here. And delete all this stuff in here. Actually, no, we want the begin play. Get the begin play back. Put in a delay. After 0.2 seconds, we're going to drag the sphere in and we're going to say destroy component. This sphere collision is going to be the damage overlap, by the way. So after 0.2 seconds, we want the damage overlap to go away. Click on the sphere, right click and say begin overlap. And if this begins overlap with, let's just say, our third person character, then we'll just print a string. Fucking bloody type. Print a string, and we'll just say this is ouch, I got hit. And we'll make that red. Obviously, you could hook this up to a damage system if you had one. I've got a tutorial for a pretty cool damage system that you could check out. It's called like modular health with health bar or something like that. Okay, so that's good. Now, just if the overlapped actor isn't the third person character, we can also say cast to lava bubble. There are better ways to do this, like with interfaces and things, but this will get the job done for now. If we overlap with a lava bubble, what we can do is we can get a lava bubble detonate event, and we can say off of this as lava bubble, we can say detonate, just like that. So now, if our explosion overlaps the player, it'll say, oh, we took damage. If the explosion overlaps another lava bubble, that lava bubble will also detonate. Okay, so now we actually need to build the detonation. So the detonation is just going to be spawn actor from class, and the actor that we're going to spawn is that explosion that we just made. Lava bubble explosion. And the spawn transform, let's just type make transform off of that. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's just get our sphere, and we'll say get world transform. And then what we might do is we can right click and split the pin like that. I should probably talk slower. I bloody sound like a maniac. Hook up the location and the rotation to the same, and then the scale of the explosion could just be like maybe 3 and 3 and 3. Just like that. Okay, cool. So that's what happens when we detonate. If we go back into a lava bubble explosion, we might also add a sound on begin play. So we can say spawn sound at location, and that sound is just going to be explosion. And the location can just be the location of the actor. Sorry, no, it can't be the location of the actor. Yes, it can. It can be the location of the actor. Get actor location self. Beautiful. Okay. So that's what happens when we detonate, and when we detonate, we also want to destroy actor self. Okay. Beautiful. Now, when our lava bubble falls to the ground and hits the ground, we're going to detonate, just like that. Let's test that this works. So we're in here, we've got a lava bubble up there, hit simulate, falling, boom, exploded. No errors, sweet. Now, if I were to add a couple of these like this, the first one, when that hits the ground, its explosion should also trigger all 3 of those. Beautiful. So that's how we know that this little thing in here is working. So we can close down that lava bubble explosion now. The lava bubbles are working like a dream, so I guess now all we need to do is just work on the spawner. So we can delete those 3 lava bubbles, and we can click on the lava bubble spawner. The first thing that we'll do for this guy is we'll just go add component, and we'll say billboard, just so we've got a little visual representation of where this guy is in the world. I don't want to make that the lizard thing, because we used the lizard thing for something else. We used it for the platform in the last video, so let's just make it this brick clay thing, because who really cares? It's just a visual representation. Change that scale to 0.5, and just drag that into the world. Okay, so that's the purpose of the billboard. You can see where it is, and you can click on the actor a lot easier. So that's that. We've got one of those guys now. Now I guess what we want to do is on begin play, let's say spawn actor from class, and the actor that we're going to spawn is our lava bubble. The transform, we can just use the billboard transform, I guess. So we can say get world transform like that. So it'll just spawn at the center of the billboard. Now, off of this, the return value, we're going to say get, what do we call it? We want to get the sphere. We're going to get the sphere, and we're going to set the velocity of the sphere to something. So we'll say get sphere, and then we're going to say set physics linear velocity, just like that. And now this is where we decide the trajectory of the bubble. So there are a couple of ways that we can do this. And actually, you know what we might do is we might make it so that this spawner can have a couple of different spawning options. So the first one, Actually, I'll show what I know what we'll do. This will be cool. So if we go back into our lava bubble folder, we right click, we can say blueprints, and then we can say enumeration, and we can call this lava bubble spawner types. And the different types of spawners that we can have is we could say, let's say predefined path, and let's add another one, and we'll call you random path, like that. This is going to be cool. I'm excited for this. So off of this, we can say select, use a select node. If you've never used one of these before, what we want to do is we want to change that to a byte, I believe. And off of this, we should be able to get our spawner. Maybe we don't want it to be a byte. Is there an option for an enumeration? Alright, let's just add a new variable in here, and we'll just call this spawner type. And if we go up here, we can change this to type lava bubble spawner types. And if we drag that into here, can we hook that up? Okay, we can hook that up like that. But we don't want that to be a vector like that. We just want this to be like this. Hang on. All right. So, excuse me. This, now we type select. Okay. I don't know why, but that node doesn't seem to update when you want it to update. Okay. Sorry about that. We got there. So, depending on what this is set to, so if we make this public like that, we can have predefined path or random path. And depending on what this is set to, that's going to select one of these, matching that, and then that's going to return a value here, which we can use to calculate the velocity of the projectile. So, for random path, this is going to be a vector, by the way. So let's just type in add vector onto there, I think, is what we want. Actually, no, we don't need that. We can just hook that straight up into here like this. So if we're getting a random, no, we'll do the predefined path first. If we're getting a predefined path, then what we're going to do is we're going to have a new variable, and this is going to be called predefined path vector. So that needs to be of type vector, just like that. Make that public, and then what's going to happen is we're going to get that. We're going to say normalize, like that, and then that's going to go into predefined path like that. So if you select predefined path as the spawner type, you enter a predefined path vector, that gets normalized, and then we get a unit vector of a predefined path out of there. Now if we want a random path, we drag off this and we say get random unit vector is the one that we want. And because we only want him to go upwards as well, we don't want lava bubbles to launch downwards, is we might split that pin struct and we'll say U. We want to make U absolute. Okay, so we don't get negative values for Z. And then we can say make vector, like that, and hook all of these up like this. Okay, so we've got a positive Z, an X and a Y, and then that's hooked up into random path, just like that. Now, this value is only of a vector length 1. So now what we need to do is we need to multiply that by a float, and this is going to be the speed of the projectile. So we can go promote to variable, and we can say speed, and then hit the I to make that public. Maybe default that to like 500, just like this, and then we connect that up to new velocity up here. Alright, I know that was confusing, and that's a lot of messing around, but this should work, fingers crossed. So let's go in and we'll see what happens. That's only going to be spawning one bubble at the moment, right on begin play, and the way that it's going to spawn it is predefined path. Let's set Z to 1 so that it goes straight upwards, and the speed is going to be 500. Moment of truth. Yo, see that? That definitely worked. Now the scale was a bit funny. So why is that? It was really, really small. And that would be because our absolute scale here of our billboard is 0.25, and that's the transform that we used for the lava bubble. So what we'll do is we'll disconnect that. We'll break this transform here. We'll break this transform here. Hook up all of those there like that, but the transform of the lava bubble will just always be 1. The scale in the... Bleh, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think I'll stop after this tutorial. I'm getting tired. There we go, much bigger. So now, that speed was obviously a bit too slow. So if we go into speed in here and change the default to, I don't know, 1,500 maybe? 2,500. Like that. And we hit simulate. Beautiful, look at that. Lava bubble launches right up in the air. Comes down and explodes. Now, that's only exploding because it's hitting the ground beneath the lava. So what we might want it to do is in our lava bubble, where is he? This one. This sphere, what we might do is we might add a collision overlap to that sphere. So what we'll do is we'll go add component, sphere collision, like that. And this is just going to be called overlap. And we'll parent that, attach that to the sphere like that. And when this outside collision overlaps with the lava, we might just make the bubble disappear because we don't want it to explode if it falls back in the lava. Maybe we just want it to like vanish or like splash or something. So we'll say begin overlap like that. And if the other actor is the lava BP, then we might just, I don't know, we can just destroy ourselves. Like that, destroy actor, just like that. So if we launch that straight up, that's really high. Oh, I destroyed the lava. Alright, yeah, so we don't want to connect that to there. We want to connect that to the other actor, I think. No, hang on, what did I do here? Lava BP, yeah. Yeah, we want to connect that to self, rather, actually, not other actor. Okay, and let me just change this to a bit less velocity. Alright, there we go. Lava bubbles up in the air, and it disappears when it gets back to the lava. Beautiful. Now, you could add a splash if you had a splash particle effect, but we don't have one of those, so... Alright, let's check that the random spawning works as well. So if we change this to random path, it'll ignore this predefined vector thing, and it should just spawn it in a random direction. Alright, didn't spawn. Maybe it's because it's overlapping with the lava. Okay, so as a cheeky workaround, what we could just do is... let's just get rid of this for now. Just to check that this spawn is actually working. Because I think it's getting destroyed as soon as it spawns. Alright, so that's working. It's launching over there, launching over there, launching over here. Does it get negative values as well? Yeah, there we go. So it definitely goes the other way. Okay. What we need to do in this spawner, lava bubble spawner, is we want to make this have a period or a frequency that it repeats itself. I think my computer's just frozen. We still working? Jeez, we're at 20 minutes already. Wow. Let's just give that a second to catch up. Okay, there we go. We're good. So we could collapse all of this into a function, and we can just call this spawn bubble, like that. And then off of the end of that, we can say delay. And this delay can be, let's say add float. And the bottom is going to be mean bubble spawn time, like that. And off of this one here, we're going to say get random float in range, like this. And the maximum is going to be promote to variable, and this is going to be called bubble spawn time deviance. And then the minimum is going to be the deviance times by a float, and that float is just going to be -1, like that. So what this is going to do, we'll make both of these public as well. Set the mean spawn time to, I don't know, 2 seconds, and the deviance to 1 second. Every single time this delay is called, it's going to get our mean spawn time, and then it's going to get a random float between negative deviance and positive deviance. So in this case, between -1 and 1. So ultimately, this delay with this current setup will give us any time between 3 seconds and 1 second. And then what we do off of complete, we can go reroute, hook that up to the spawn bubble, again like that. And now this should spawn bubbles at varying frequencies. So let's give that a go. Let's just check that all these settings are correct. Yep, looks fine to me. So if we hit play, there we go, spawning bubbles everywhere with a random frequency. You know, we could also do the same thing with the velocity if we wanted. So if we go into spawn bubble like this, and we had our speed down here, we could have add float like that. Speed can be hooked up to the bottom like that. And then if we go back into our event graph, we can just copy this situation we had up here and just hook that up like this, like that. And then off of max, we can say speed variance, like that. And then hook that up into the negative multiply thing up there like that. Compile and save. Speed variance can be, I don't know, what was our speed? 2,500. So the speed variance could be like, I don't know, 1,000. Like that. Actually, let's make it really extreme, 2,000. But you always want the variance to be less than the actual speed itself. Okay. So now if we hit play, we should get bubbles with all kinds of crazy speed. So that one was small. That one was relatively small as well. That one was really high. Really high. Really high. Cool. So just as a cheeky workaround to that spawning problem, we could just say begin play. This overlap here, we'll set the collision presets to no collision, and then on begin play, we'll have a delay of 0.2 seconds, and then after that, we'll say set collision enabled, and the new collision type can just be overlap all. We want this to be overlap all dynamic. My voice is getting sore, I've been talking too much. Off of this, we can say, is it disable collision? We'll just say set collision enabled to no collision. And then after 0.2 seconds, we'll say set collision enabled to collision enabled. And now that'll stop it from just automatically destroying itself at begin play. There we go. So now our bubbles are spawning. And they won't explode if they fall back into the lava, like those ones just did. So they would have had a really low velocity, and that one had a really high velocity. So if you want reasonable velocities, I think a good speed might be a mean speed of maybe 1,500, I think is a good one. And the speed variance of, say, maybe like 250, just to add a bit of variation. Alright, so let's jump in the game and just see how that looks. Cool, so those bubbles are spawning. They've got their flames on them. They explode when they hit something. They'll explode when they hit the player as well. Alright, I just died and fell off that platform. Alright. I kind of want to get hit by one. We can add a bunch of these as well, so we could just put them out like this. Maybe we can make one of them really fast. So if we had the spawn time to 0.5 seconds with a deviation of like 0.25, and maybe this one can have a really low speed as well. The speed could be like 500. And I just remembered, in our lava bubble spawner, you want the speed variance to be public as well, so you can edit that outside of the blueprint. So cool. What if we hit simulate now? So that would spawn lots of them really quickly, just like that. I think one of them must have just hit the player, because I saw a little message pop up over there. Alright, let's jump back in and have a look. This is the tutorial done, by the way, guys. You can stop watching at any time, I'm just messing around. Let's see if I can get hit by one. Hit me. Yo, there we go. Ouch, I got hit. So that's where you'd set up the damage system. Alright guys, that's it. I'm getting really tired, so I'm going to sign off. That's a lava tutorial, moving lava platform, and some lava bubbles with random path, and you can also have predefined path. So let's just test that that predefined path works with all of these as well. Simulate. Now they're all launching straight up. Well, these two are anyway. I didn't set that last one. Oh, and they explode when they hit each other as well. Watch this. Yo. Oh, that's so cool. Alright guys, that's it. Hopefully this made sense. I know this one was the long one, and I was pretty tired, so I might have made a bunch of mistakes and said shit that didn't make sense. So, if you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll get around to answering them. And leave me requests for other tutorials, and I'll see you next time.